alt news and other platforms are doing excellent job, but they are not really enough. We need more, much more. And just doing the fact checking is not enough. You also need to do a lot of discussion. You need to enter the discussion forums and participate in them to influence the people's thinking. And that's something that I want to talk about today. So we want to discuss today online communities and forums and discussions, how one can participate in those, because those are really places where a large number of netizens are participating. They are spending a lot of time in those places, and they need to be influenced by whatever way we can. So there are a number of social media platforms. I mean, we're all familiar with names like Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram. Also, YouTube discussion forums, Snapchat, Quora, etc. All these are full of false information and false kind of propaganda which is being tried in all these places. So one can go into each one of them. In fact, the last time I discussed WhatsApp more in detail as to what you can do within your own capacity as a, whether your family groups or your RWA groups of WhatsApp, what you can do. So we discussed that, and it's available on the video recording also. But today I want to go a little bit into the Facebook, because that is the most common platform. We can also discuss other things, how to, for example, um, uh, report fake news or hateful hate messages, etc. So what we need to do, basically, each of us, if we have, or if we are not already there, then I would give you a few tips as to what you can do. First of all, you need to open social media accounts, um, and be part of communities. Either create communities or be part of these communities which are there in social media. Join the groups and join the pages. Many of these social media platforms, especially Facebook and Instagram, they allow you to create pages or some kind of groups, thematic groups, where you can join, and then a lot of people post things on those. Some of these pages and groups are, some of them are administered, as in somebody is sitting there to censor your posts, and some of them are free, anybody can post on them. So those are very important groups, and I can show you a few examples also. So you need to join them. You need to see what's going on. You need to make interventions, and whatever interventions you are making, whatever you are observing there, it's always a good idea to record or document these things, download these things, or save the screenshots, and keep them, because they're always useful. You can always tell, in future you can write a report, or you can say that this is what I tried to do and I managed to do something like that. So the most basic thing that you can do, apart from, of course, personal things, and a lot of people use social media for personal messaging, personal posting, family pictures, children's pictures, all those things. So apart from the personal things, the non-personal actions that you can take, is posting or sharing news items or links on social media. That is the most important thing, and the most common thing which people do, and that is very useful, in the sense that when you find a news item or any kind of interesting information or a meme or an image, which you want more people to know, which should reach more and more people, which is something very useful. Sometimes it can also be very alarming. So you post these things, or you share them. You take from someone else, someone's post, and you share it. That's the most common thing which people do, and for that, you can either simply go to a website, like for example here there is a website of Hindustan Times, let's say. Now there are a couple of ways of doing this. Many websites have for every item they have social media links or logos available. So if you can see here, there on the left hand there is a Twitter, and then Instagram, Radar, whatever it is. So there are several of these. So you can either copy and paste the URL. The URL is the top address which is available here. You just click on it. If it's highlighted, then you copy it, Control C. And then you go back to your social media account and you paste it and just enter it so that it is posted. So that's the simplest thing you can do. Then if you don't want to post, if you don't want to copy the URL, you can always click on one of these things, and this will take you to your social media account. Maybe you'll have to log in, and then you can post that. Then you can post other people's posts also. So these are generally, I mean, if you haven't seen it, of course many of you are familiar with this. So Facebook posting window looks like this, Twitter window looks like this. So you can just paste your URL, and it will automatically take the title of the item as well as some photograph or something, and it will post it. So that's the easiest thing you can do. And it's always good idea, especially if there is a news which nobody else is watching, or people are not aware of it, or if something unique has happened or something alarming has happened. So you can always post these. Now at this is also, there's also the whole issue of when I use the word alarming, it could also mean that it can create more sensation, or it can create fear. So you have to be careful as to what you are posting. First of all, it has to be authentic, it has to be verified, it has to come from a verified source, it has to come from a prominent, well-known news portal. It should not be unverified. So first, it is your duty to first make sure that it is a verified news. Only then you post it. And sometimes when you post something, people will write comment on it. People some people might agree with you, some people will say, oh my god, you have posted this, I didn't know such a thing has happened. Some people will disagree with you, and they'll say, why have you posted this, this is wrong, and this is not true, and this is fake, and things like that. So be ready for discussion, be ready for defending whatever you have done, whatever you have posted, because people will make all kinds of comments depending on what kind of friends do you have. Now that's another big issue, when we are on Facebook or Twitter or all these platforms. What sort of people are there with you? Are they your friends? Are they just following you? Are they, maybe they are friends, but ideologically they differ with you. They are into some other kind of thinking. They don't agree with you on many things. So this is a big issue that we always grapple with. For example, I have on Facebook, I have about 1,500 or maybe 2,000 friends. Many of them I know personally, many of them I have met and I have dealt with them, stayed with them, worked with them, etc. But there are many friends who I don't know, but they came from different sources, they came from different connections, and they became friends. Now, luckily, I don't have trollers, or people who would go totally against you and who would abuse you, or things like that. But I do know that I have a few friends, and these are like old friends, like 20, 30 years friends, who don't agree with what I post, but they are also kind of quiet about it. They don't comment on my post. They just ignore it, or and I know very well that they don't like some of my posts, but sometimes they make a very strange kind of comment, some odd comment, which, I mean, they're also trying to be very careful in how they comment. They don't want to break friendship with me. So it's a very tricky situation. It's a very, very, you have to be very careful with friends, how what kind of relationship you keep with them. So there are Facebook allows you to create pages or groups. So for example, I'm just showing you a page of a group called Voice Against Corruption, Intolerance and Injustice in India. Some of my friends have created this. I know many people who have, and I'm part of many of these groups. There are, I mean, this group with its title, it sounds not very controversial. I mean, it sounds very useful, but then there are more controversial ones also. But this, a thematic group or a page looks like this, where you can add members to it. For example, this group has about 9,000 members. Then there are groups which have more than 9,000, like 10,000, maybe 1 lakh members or whatever. Now, a lot of people keep posting on these groups, and it is important to keep to the theme. Sometimes people post all sorts of things which are not part of the theme. So there should be an administrator or a person, a moderator who should moderate these posts. So if you create a page like that or a group like that, so when I say that you have to create communities and be part of these communities, this is what I mean. That if you have lots of friends on Facebook, and if your friends are politically active, or at least they respond to the political posts or whatever is happening in the country, if they respond, then it is a good idea to start a group like this, or find a group and join it. So you will find, whatever theme you want to start with, maybe you can search on Facebook and you might find some groups which are already existing. But then take a look at those groups. What kind of posts are being made? Are they good posts, or are they sort of kind of dangerous posts or damaging posts? So uh, um, I'm not saying that you have to ignore if there is a dangerous post, or something negative. Maybe it is a good idea to enter such groups and try to influence people, because our aim is to really change the thinking of the people. If they are thinking in wrong or politically incorrect ways, then it is our idea to enter these forums and try to influence people. So it's always a good idea to just enter and gauge what kind of a group it is. If it has 9,000 people or more, or less, or whatever, then you can also add your friends to it. Now, many of our friends are not very politically oriented, and they don't really want to be part of a political thing. They don't post political things, and they don't like anything political. I always believe that in the times that we are living in, it is important to be political today, because we have people like us who are, sort of thinking and liberal and secular and whatever. We generally avoid getting into what we call the dirty politics. But I think that is the mistake that we have made, which has allowed the situation, the political situation of the country to go in this whatever state it is in. So it is people like us. We need to enter such forums, and we need to influence people. We need to observe what is going on. Okay, if you don't want to comment on somebody's post, if you don't want to enter into discussion, the least you can do is to find objectionable posts and uh, report them to Facebook. Report them and tell the Facebook that there is something going on here which needs to be rectified. For example, I think I had earlier also mentioned this page, which is a page of Z News. It's a public group, and there are probably 1 lakh people on it. And every time, somebody or the other is like, every minute somebody is posting something on it, and very, very rabid kind of things. So right now, for example, there is this debate going on, rather a propaganda going on against the Khans of Bollywood, like Salman Khan and everybody. Like, after the Sushant Singh Rajput committed suicide, there is a propaganda which has started, a big propaganda in Bollywood, and especially on social media, saying that there is nepotism, and there is some kind of problems happening, exploitation happening in Bollywood, and Sushant Singh committed suicide because of all these big Khans, especially Salman Khan and Karan Johar and all. They used to exploit younger actors, and they didn't allow them to come to the limelight and so on and so forth. So there is a big debate. There's a big propaganda which is going on. So you can see, and this is a video. I'm not showing you the video. I'm just showing this screenshot that this says that Bihar mein nahi lagne denge Salman Khan ki filmein, and there is actually some violence which has happened in some towns of Bihar where they tried to uh, tear the posters and banners of Salman Khan, saying that we will boycott not only Salman but all the Khans and all this, that, and the other. So there are discussion forums like that, and if you try to enter them, if you try to post something, if it is not going with their, if it is not agreeing with their ideology, then they will abuse you. They will use all kinds of bad language. So I mean, I keep observing these kind of pages. Sometimes it's very disturbing, and sometimes it can actually drive you crazy, because if you continue to see these things again and again, you'll be amazed that the amount of hatred and fear mongering which is being put into these pages. Yeah, for example, I just found this. I mean, Congress and Nehru and all these things are, they are the main target of all these groups. So this says Nehru ke bacche Gandhi, Firoz ke bacche Gandhi, Vadra ke bacche Gandhi, ye kaisi आंधी. This kind of, it says that Nehru Gandhi परिवार तो इतना mix खानदान है कि साला हल्दीराम का नवरत्न भी इतना mix नहीं आता. So all kinds of things, and people are posting, and then people are putting all kinds of smileys and saying, oh yes, you're right, you said just the right thing. So now the idea is what to do with such things. Like, you have 9,000 or 10,000 or 90,000 people watching memes like that, and reposting, sharing, and sending all over. So I mean, as I had mentioned earlier also, that we need to create more positive memes to counter these things. We can obviously do that, but do we have the the manpower to do something like this? So it's amazing how what kind of things are going on the internet. No, I have been wondering that what what makes all this happen, why there's so much trolling and all that. And I came to this, I think I mentioned this earlier also, that the main reason for trolling and propaganda, especially today, is that the internet promotes these incognito or hidden identities or fake profiles that are difficult to pin to a real person or a real geographical location. So this allows the hidden identities allows people to abuse others, and there is no accountability on the internet. It's like a internet is like a dark room with no light, and there are people sitting in it, and they are abusing each other. I mean, maybe you can recognize the voices, that is a male voice or a female voice or an old person or a young person, but you don't really know who they are. So unless we switch the light on, we don't know who they are. And the moment you switch the light on, then everybody will become their own real self, and then they will start behaving maybe more sensibly. So this is one of the reasons why trolling and this kind of fake things happen. And I've always wondered that if we are sitting opposite each other, if we are sitting face to face, even if we disagree, at least we see the body language of the people. At least we see, like, if I disagree with you, if I'm saying something to you, I can always smile at you, and that will make a different kind of communication to my enemy or to the person who disagrees with me. So I believe, and this is what I keep telling people, that if you want to enter these discussions, whatever they are telling, that's the secondary thing. The first thing is that you try to check what is their identity. Are they is it their real identity? Are they real people, or what? And you can always ask them that, who are you? Is this your real identity? Who are you? Let's talk about whatever you want to talk about. We'll talk about it, but let's come to our real identity, and then because all these trolls, if you talk to them, you will realize that they also have a goal. They also have an aim. They want to do something for the country, for their community, for the nation, or whatever. So okay, if you have a goal, then let's come to that goal. And because we can also say that, we also want a good country, a progressive country, and so on and so forth, and peace and shanti and all that. So let's come to the let's work together, but let's reveal each other's identities. So it's very important to have this sort of it's important to build relationships with the trolls, rather than just reject them. I mean, this is what happens, because you need to tell them that, look, if you want a change in the thinking of the people, then don't offend them, because if you offend them, then they will just go away. They will see your post, they will go away, they will not get changed. But if you want a real change, then you need to have a dialogue, a long term dialogue. Only then you may be able to I'm not saying that I am right and you are wrong. That we should not really have this self-righteous kind of approach that, only I am right just because I am liberal and secular and whatever, left oriented. We should not have that sort of an attitude that only we are right and you are wrong. um, we should say that, okay, maybe you have something to say, let's have a discussion, but let's at least reveal each other's real identities. Only then a real communication and a real uh, convincing will be possible. So this is what we need to do. So as I had mentioned earlier also, there are three kinds of people generally you find online. There are people who are already converted to your ideology. They're already convinced, so you don't need to worry about them. They already know. You can only share things with them. Then there are people who would never be able to, you will never be able to convince them or convert them to your side, however hard you try. And similarly, they will never be able to change you, however hard they try. So that is one category. But then there is a third category in the middle somewhere, which are people who uh, could be converted with some effort, and they are kind of on the periphery. They are somewhere in the middle, and they need to be dealt with very carefully. They are the ones who, and let me tell you that this is the maximum. These are the majority of the people who are somewhere in the middle. We always, when we talk about the peace efforts or peace studies, there is a theory that in any society, in any given society, if you make a like a spectrum of people, from good to bad. Let's say on the good side, you have really nice people, people who are always honest. They're very caring, very loving, and very honest people. And on the other extreme, you have, let's say, the bad people, the villains, let's say the criminal, or the people who are always hate mongering and who are always spreading hate, and so on and so forth. So there is always these two extremes are really small minorities. Like the people who are the good people are probably 5 to 10%, and the people who are the bad people who are probably 5 to 10%, and the rest of the 80% people in the middle are neither good nor bad. They are somewhere in the middle. They can be pulled whichever way you want. They can be swayed whichever way you want. And it is our kind of, if we are here to make an impact or influence people, then it is our duty to influence these middle ground people. That's the main thing. And you can always find these middle ground people. Maybe at some point they're behaving in a little extreme way, but I think it's always better to take them from that extreme and talk about positive things, talk about nice things, and they might, you'll suddenly discover that they are the people who are in the middle, and they can be dealt nicely. You can very give them very subtle messages. Subtlety is what works with them. And I know many of my friends, some of my friends are like there in this middle ground, and I need to deal with them very carefully. You know, if for example, if I am criticizing the government too much, then they start doubting me, and they say, why are you criticizing, what the government has done this also. Whereas the people who you can't convert at all, they will be much more angry, or they will immediately reject you in some way. Whereas your friends who are in the middle, they will try to debate with you, try to of course they will know that this guy is more left oriented or more whatever secular oriented, but actually you can always talk to them and say that, look, we are interested in change, so let's bring the change together, and let's discuss it, let's talk about each other's, because I've always realized that in communication, uh, just saying something or just speaking your mind out is not enough. Actually, in communication, most important is listening, the power to listen, the ability to listen to others. And this is a mistake which many people make. Many people think that communication only means talking or convincing people, or thrusting your ideology on somebody, or being monopolizing a discussion. You'll be successful if you monopolize a discussion. That's a bad approach. I always find that listening is more important sometimes. Or equally important than talking. So it's always good to listen to them. It's always good to, okay, fine, you want to say something, I want to hear what you want to say. So I always believe that listening is as important as talking. Now again, since we have little time now, we have about 6-7 minutes left. We can join again after this. So while you are discussing or debating, there are generally I have noticed that people in discussions, they don't know how to discuss or debate, mainly because maybe they have not gone through that kind of schooling or that kind of intellectual rigor which, let's say, our academics go through. So most people don't know the difference between opinions and facts. They just say something and they believe that it is a fact which they have said. This is what I've noticed. So try to, if you find such discussions where somebody is just making an opinion, try to tell them that, look, this is an opinion, it is not based on a fact, or an evidence. So you bring an evidence or bring the fact. What is the fact that you are trying to say? And you will realize that sometimes right in the beginning people get a little confused, what is this, opinion, fact, whatever. And obviously we are talking right now in English, but you need to sometimes talk to people in Hindi or the local language, because they may not follow exactly an English argument. So a lot of times people are discussing in Hindi, or a romanized Hindi and so on, which can be clearer, or sometimes it can be more confusing also at times. So it's always, if you want to be heard, or if you want to hear them, use their language, use a language in which they are comfortable, and always try to emphasize that, whatever you are saying, whatever, even if you are making an opinion, show the facts behind it, show the evidence behind it, and that evidence has to be verified, it has to be a confirmed kind of a source. So insist on bringing a confirmed source. You can always say that, look, what you are saying, is this based on something, is this based on an authentic source? So at least force them to go and search for, the fact which they are saying. Is it justified, is it verified? So let them go and search for it, and then bring some facts, or something like that. Always insist on statistics, always insist on numbers, and say that, look, how can you say this, whereas there is this statistics which proves it otherwise, and so on. So we need to create a culture of debating and discussing things correctly. And there are ways to do that. You can always talk about, for example, when researchers whether when doing scientific research or any kind of research, there is a method which they follow. They make an observation, they ask questions, they form an hypothesis or a testable explanation, and then they make a prediction based on that hypothesis, and they test their prediction, and then there is an iteration, like using the same results to make new hypotheses, etc. So there are of course not everybody will follow this, but sometimes we have even educated people who are making mistakes, so you can always tell them that there are ways to do a correct way of proving yourself. Proving is not something you just make an opinion and you have proved yourself. No, you have to come up with evidence to prove whatever you are saying. Now sometimes in the area that we are working in, for example, peace and cultural harmony and social tolerance and Hindu Muslim communalism and all that, these are the areas in which we are working. So sometimes a lot of people don't have the knowledge which is required. So I think we need to create a kind of a knowledge base where the answers to some of the frequently asked questions can be available. And I'm working on something like this. And I would like you to contribute sort of not only answers, but also questions, come up with questions which people generally ask, and then let's collectively provide the correct answers to them, whether in Hindi or Urdu, Hindi and English, and then let them read some of that, and start a culture of giving sources and references, and especially emphasize on democracy and human rights and constitution and social discrimination and so on. These are things which we need to work out, which we need to emphasize in all these discussions which are happening. The popular sort of opinions are very, very confused. Most people don't know what they are fighting for. Most people don't know what their aim is. I mean, sometimes their aim is only to work for a political party. They just want a political party to win, and that's it. We have to tell them that, look, that is not important. A political party's winning is not important. What is important is to save the country, to save the constitution, to save human rights, to save democracy, and all these things. So this is what I wanted to discuss today mostly. Now let me see if I have any more. So what we are going to do, we'll end this session, the first session now, and then we'll regather. You can click on those links again, the link